This is an April update on my 112-gallon Average Reef. While tomorrow is the 1st of May, it's feeling like the middle of March still. As the weeks at home become months, I'm looking at doing some subtle changes to improve the long-term health of my reef, both as far as coral placement and even some equipment upgrades. The first idea I have kind of came up by accident. I moved this power head forward while I was cleaning the glass and I forgot to move it back. The resulting change in the flow pattern pushes the gorgonian forward. Now that it's no longer over the Passalipora, there's a little tiny bit of rockwork open there. And I'm thinking I could move this toadstool, which has really started to grow, to that spot. I would just have to raise it up so that it doesn't rub against the Passalipora. The reason I want to move it is obvious here. It's shading out the blastos, the branching cyphastria, and it would even create a little bit of open rockwork for a couple of frags. It might be a little bit tricky getting it to fit there, but I think I can do it. The branching cyphastria is growing, but it's really never taken off. Maybe getting a little bit more light would help it. You can see this frag here actually fell into the corner of the tank, but I left it because it's actually getting more light down there than where it was glued on the rockwork. This chalice here is also doing well in an isolated spot. So while I hate the idea of changes for the sake of changes, I think long term this would be good. Here's a quick overhead shot of the new flow pattern. It's actually keeping the gorgonian in the water a little bit more too. It does still break the surface, but nowhere near as much as it once did. From the side, you can see it's a little bit tangled up, but I think it's okay like this. All the polyps are still open, and this can only help the Passalipora. For whatever reason, the cabbage coral always looks better from the back. Of course, that might change if I add another piece of rock there for the toadstool. Last month, someone was asking about my equipment. Here's a quick peek. I have 3 older Kessels, 2 black boxes, and 2 T5s for lighting. Below the tank, I'm running a Camor doser, which is dosing alkalinity, calcium, and DIY Nopox. I also do dose amino acids by hand. I run a reactor that has both GFO and carbon in it. I only change the media about once a month. And I have an old Reef Octopus Diablo, I think it's a 160 skimmer. The other piece of equipment which I find essential is a filter sock. I change it twice a week, sometimes once a week. It will clog quickly due to the carbon dosing. And other than that, I have a really old return pump, several heaters plugged into an Inkbird, and a refugium that just houses a marine pure block. I'm not really a fan of macroalgae and algae refugiums. The older Kessels are actually a mix of models. I have an A350, which I got way back in 2012. You can see it's still working fine. I have an A360, which is lighting up the area of the tank I'm showing here. I have some issues with this one. It blinks and I can no longer adjust the color spectrum on it. So I'm replacing it with an A360X. The other Kessel light is the A360WE, so I'll still have 3 different models running over the tank. You can see this toadstool here is about to split, which is great news because I could always use more frags. I am being sarcastic. Here's a couple dozen in my frag tank. The other change I'm considering is adjusting this corner rock, which is really the ugly part of the reef. There's a lot of invasive clove polyps on this rock and more Kenya trees than I need. There is that nice blue sponge and some cyphastria though. However, I could probably move the rock back here. This hammer colony is actually massive. You can just barely see it. I'm sure the back of it is all bleached out because it doesn't get any light, and the front of it is touching those snake polyps. So I might switch those 2 pieces too. Over here I'm eventually going to get to trimming this Pompomzina and the Pallies growing right on top of the acro. That's an area I regularly trim, but my frag tank is pretty full with no possibilities to unload frags anytime soon. That being said, I may still add a few new pieces. I do have one local reefer friend who I could curbside pick up some frags if it comes to that. And there's probably a few things in my frag tank which are not in this tank. Hope everyone is making use of their time at home to make their tanks better. I'm certainly trying to dial everything into the extreme. I already spend a lot of time on this tank, but the extra time is just going to pay off in the long run, I think. Thanks for watching, and happy reefing.